Hi guys, welcome to the Fife Property Show. It is no deal Brexit and the prediction for Fife house prices. Roll VT! Hi guys, welcome to another week of the Fife Property Show. All exciting things going to happen. We're going to be talking about no deal Brexit and the prediction for Fife house prices. Anything can happen in the next hour. You never know what's going to happen, where it's going to happen. I've got our special guest for today, Andrea Stanford. Andrea, how are you this morning?
Very well, thank you.
Fantastic. And Richard Cook. Hi Richard, how are you?
Morning, I'm great this morning. Interesting topic today.
Great stuff, yeah. Before we go on, I just how do we chuckle behind the scenes? You know what I'm going to bring up, Andrea? What are you buying for your mother for Christmas?
Well, I'm going to buy her a carbon monoxide detector or two because she refuses to buy one herself at 88. She feels that if they're mandatory and we should have them, then they should be provided. And she might have a point, but can't think what else to get
her. Hey, practical. It's just like that hammer that you bought me one year just in case I crash into a river and I'm stuck in my car when it's sinking. How are you today, Richard?
Hi, doing good.
Good stuff. What are you up to today then? Anything exciting?
I've actually got a few things to finish off Christmas before the rush. I've not got time next week. I'll still be busy working.
Shopping. Wow, it's just all kicking off, eh? And everybody's out today probably doing that. So we're going to get through this quickly. Yeah, definitely. We'll get through this quickly and get on. And for everybody watching, it's your show, guys. If you want to ask some questions about this, if you want to chip in about what your thoughts are, more than happy for you to do that. We'll see your comments in there and we'll probably bring you on. You never know. You might actually be brought on the show if you comment enough times. So, it's your show, guys, and we'll kick off just now. So the no deal Brexit. Morning, Anne-Marie. How are you? Thanks for watching. So no deal Brexit and the prediction for Fife house prices. So roll back the clock to April 2020. Morning, Danny. And a major financial economist and property market commenters were sounding the alarm. The very best case scenario was a 5% drop in property values by the end of the year, and most were predicting a 10 to 15% range. They forewarned that COVID-stimulated recession would trim tens of thousands of pounds off the values of Fife homes. Yet, the Fife property market seemed to not get that memo on either. And now we find ourselves at the end of 2020 and the worst of lockdown restrictions appear to have been passed. Vaccinations are on their way and the economy is starting to grow. So Fife property prices seem to be doing quite well right now. Andrea, over to you. What are you seeing?
I'm seeing a lot of people making really good decisions about what they need to do to improve their lifestyles. I think during COVID, they learned that they needed bigger houses, needed somewhere to work from home. If they lived in flats or in the towns, they wanted to be out in the country near the seaside. So they were putting their properties on the market and buying other ones at, greatly inflated prices.
Absolutely. Richard, what's your thoughts on this as well?
Yeah, I totally agree, Andrea. I mean, people have used this time, I think, to really reevaluate what's important to them, especially at home, and what they need there at home, because they've been there such more time than what they have been previous, and whether that's extra space or internally or extra garden space and things as well. These are all factors that I think push people forward to put their property in the market and find maybe something that accommodates them better for being at home for a longer time, and they're prepared to pay for it.
There's been a huge shift in the market and people's perceptions, hasn't there?
Yeah.
We've talked about this before. We have seen people from cities and outside of the area and actually deciding, I tell you what, Fife's going to be the best place for me to go because it's idyllic. It gives everything, it ticks all the boxes. I mean, we don't realise what's on our doorstep. So it ticks all the boxes. And then it's a better price point in comparison to what they're paying just now. I mean, look at a 2-bedroom flat in Edinburgh, 2-bedroom flat in Merchant City in Glasgow. You know, you're talking about 300,000 or thereabouts. That's crazy prices. But when you look at what you'll get for 300,000 in Fife, wow, you're getting a huge detached villa. So it's value for money, really, isn't it? And it's lifestyle.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you can what you can get in Fife, you have to travel from the cities to be able to get it, you know, on your weekends, and so you could have that all the time. You could nip out after work, you know, if you're working from home, you could have the beach on your doorstep. You know, it's absolutely ideal for anybody that's wanting a mixture of the work-life balance.
Yeah, and I think the people that work in the cities and things, obviously, because they're not working in the office as much as well, and I think that's going to be a trend moving forward. I think the working from home and the work-life balance is going to change, and I think people are realising that they could have somewhere a lot bigger for the same price, if not maybe possibly less, and they could still commute to work when they need to, and it's not hard to commute into Edinburgh for Fife.
Yeah, most banks, mortgage companies, most big large corporations now and solicitor firms and that are basically saying that, you know, you don't need to come into work. You could work remotely from home, maybe appear 2 times a week on a rota, because that's how the office is structured in these big, huge organizations. And then that's all you need to do. So that's why they're thinking, well, if I could choose to come in twice a week, it's not really that encumbrant than the usual slog every single day. You know, I mean, I remember when I travelled to Edinburgh every single day when I was working at Standard Life in George Street, and that was almost a 1.5 to 2 hour journey every single day, and that's there and back as well. So almost 3 to 4 hours of my day was taken in travelling. You know, and then you've got the cost that comes with it, over and above that, and what it would cost to do it.
There's also the cost to the companies for having a huge premises to house all their staff when it's not necessarily needed, and maybe just have a single hub where people can go and book a slot for doing photocopying and you know, all the different things that you maybe wouldn't have the equipment at home, but you can completely work from home otherwise. And so the council, I know, you know, quite a lot of councils rent premises, and most of their staff are working from home now, so they could actually save themselves a lot of money.
Mm-hmm. So what other drivers in the market are in place? Oh, well, let's go on. Let's talk about, so what happened to the Fife house price crash that wasn't? And we'll talk about the drivers later on, because there is other significant drivers in this process that will show us and demonstrate to us why Fife house prices, and right across the economy as well, why house prices are just going up and up and up and up. And, you know, I know what my predictions are for next year, and we'll talk about that later. So before I answer that, I'm reminded of what the Treasury said in 2016 about the Leave vote on the Brexit referendum. Remember that? Well, I don't either, but I've got it written down. I don't remember what I had for my breakfast this morning, never mind all that time ago. But maybe that's just a senior moment. So the considered opinion of the Treasury was house prices would drop by 18% if the country voted to leave the EU. Hello? That's no happened. So let us see what would have done. Let us see what that would have done to Fife house prices if it hadn't taken place, and then exactly what had happened in the last 4.5 years. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to share this for everybody to see. This is where Fife house prices were in the prediction. Okay, so here we are. So right in front of us here, we have got the average value of a Fife property in 2016 was a detached house was 245,700. Semi-detached house was 148,800. Fife terraced house was 114,400, and an apartment or a flat was 116,200. So the predicted drop by the Treasury because of Brexit would have been, you know, 201,000, 122, 93,000, and 95,000. But the average value today, look at that figure, it is now 281,100 for a Fife detached home. Now, I have localised regional ones, which I'll probably share in tomorrow's Fife Property Weekly Roundup blog, and that goes into the exact same tables for Andrea, Cooper, East Neuk, St Andrews, Dunfermline, Leavenmouth, Kirkcaldy, Glenrothes. So I'll share these tables tomorrow individually if anybody wants to see that on a localised and more regionalised basis. But you can look at these average values today. I mean, 281,000 detached, 167 for a semi, 137 for a terraced house, and an apartment, 122,000. So the uplift in the value in the last 4.5 years is, look at that, 35,000, 18,000, 23,000, and 6,000. Now, that's quite interesting though, when you look at it. You notice the ones that have performed well are the terraced. Why do you think that is? Andrea?
Your basic 3-bedroom terraced house is typically one of your first-time buyers' properties, especially if they've got a family and they're wanting to get onto the property ladder. I think the mortgage help schemes that were there, like the first-time buyers,
First Home Fund,
First Home Fund, has certainly helped an awful lot of people get that foot on the ladder in the past year. It was so successful it actually ran out before it was meant to. So I think that's why. And people, most terraced houses have got a garden. They're in pretty good areas, and they're just ideal for your first-time buyers.
It is really an affordable level for a first-time buyer. It is also an affordable level for an upgrader. We've noticed that the typical profile of a bedroom, the most popular is 3 bedrooms, right across the scale in Fife. In every single region, 3-bedroom houses are the most popular. Apart from East Neuk, which is 3-bedroom apartments, is the most popular. But I think that's driven by holiday home market. But it's a great price point when you think about it, because you can get a 3-bedroom house, you can get a 3-bedroom semi, at the £167,000 level. But if you jump up to the detached properties, it is a significant jump. Does everybody need a detached? That's really it. So the majority of the market is in semi-detached and probably terraced as well. Why do you think, Richard, why do you think flats and apartments aren't performing that well as opposed to the other ones?
Well, I mean, like Andrea says, 2, 3 and 4-bedroom houses are quite popular. I think I see that in the letting sector as well. I mean, as opposed to flats and things. Everybody wants to have a house now as that kind of upgrade for people that are in apartments. I've done it myself fairly recently in recent years. And the price point as well is quite affordable. And like you say, there's quite a significant jump when you go to up to like the detached and semi-detached, as opposed to obviously terraced houses, and some of the semi-detached as well. So yeah, I would agree with that.
When you think about it, I mean, you look at the price points here, the average apartment price compared to the terraced house price. So the reality is, if you're paying just a wee bit extra, you can get an actual house instead of a flat or an apartment. So why would you want to? I mean, the only reason you'd want an apartment probably is, your typical Victorian apartment, which is almost like a house.
Yeah, with the high ceilings and these converted houses. Yeah, that's different.
And more executive apartments as well, which are upmarket and highly finished to a high standard. That's where that market is. Typical buy-to-let profiles, I think personally, have actually died off in terms of the apartments because of the 4% ADS has actually put a lot of buy-to-let landlords off. And the uncertain times and some of the legislation that's been quite draconian over the years in terms of where we are and what we're doing. So I think that's definitely why the market's been like that so far. Is the very fact that the flats market has not increased as well. But finance is cheap, isn't it? That's really what it is. So if a first-time buyer can afford a cheap mortgage on a 5-year deal for, let's say, for under 3% for 5 years, why would they not take advantage of that?
Yeah, that's definitely one of the drivers, and we spoke about that last week as well. Interest rates and obviously the finance is definitely one of the drivers in that.
And inflation as well. We've looked at inflation. I mean, inflation's quite a good point to pick up on. We'll have a quick look at this, and we'll talk about inflation for just a wee minute here. I'll share my screen again. So inflation was recently announced, just the other day, and it's actually dropped. So it's dropped to 0.3% from 0.7% in October. So now it's 0.3%. So is that quite worrying? Yeah, and to a degree. I mean, you don't really want a point where inflation drops too much in our economy, because then that implies stagnation. That implies no one's buying anything. Therefore, that if no one's buying anything, therefore that means no one's manufacturing anything. That means there's a knock-on effect to industry and jobs as a result of that. So, you know, you need some sort of consumer demand in there anyway. And what the consumer price indexes do is actually it actually monitors right across the board how inflation performs in every single category of purchase. You know, so they will go through things like how much does it cost you to buy a car? Has it gone up in price month to month? How much is vegetables and all your takeaways and your restaurants, and is that going up in price over the last couple of months? And that's what indexation and inflation actually monitors as a result, because that gives us an indication of where we are in terms of the amortization of money over time. You know, because as inflation goes up, your pound is in less value. You know, when you think about the logic of that, then the pound is less of a value when inflation goes up. And then that's another thing you would regulate against interest rates as well. Because if you're not getting any money, any return in the bank, this comes to buy-to-let, which we're probably going to touch on, Richard.
Yeah.
If you're not getting any return in the bank and inflation's sitting at 0.3%, then every month that goes by, your money's going down in value by 0.3% every single month. And compounded over a year, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So what do we do about that, Richard? We'll plough into the property investment market.
I was just going to say invest. Yeah, and I've seen it quite a lot. I mean, obviously over the last few months, especially, a lot of investors realising this and investing in property, which we spoke about last week as well, as a great way to invest obviously money rather than it sitting in the bank. Especially when you look at figures like that, where over the course of a year, your money's well better invested into something like, obviously, a property.
We've always been taught as a nation that owning property is a good thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll have a wee bit of a thing about that. You know, sometimes owning a property is not the good thing to do. Because, and everybody will be quite surprised about that coming from an investor and a landlord. But sometimes a property could end up being an asset, it could end up being a liability. You know, because, and I'll take my first thing, the home that you live in is a liability. It's not an asset really, because the reality is it costs you money every day. And you don't have to produce anything for it. So unless it's actually running efficiently and it's running a good cost base in terms of what you're returning, then it is a liability and it'll cost you money all the time. Whereas you could take that existing money that you were frivolous about in spending on your home, and you could then reinvest that in pension, savings plan, property investment, and you could actually make a return on that money as well. So, you know, that's touching on that point, but we're digressing from the subject of Brexit. So why has the Fife property market then not matched the property pundits twice in the last 5 years or so? You know, how has that happened? Well, for most of us, owning a property is about having somewhere to live rather than an investment. Yeah, we just spoke about that. Nevertheless, once a homeowner is on the proverbial property ladder, it cannot be denied that it's eternally beneficial to know as a homeowner that you've made a healthy investment in your home and that the value will rise to alleviate the ache of trading up the market or down the market as you retire, basically. So if those 5 homeowners who have detached homes would have made an average profit of £35,400, a rise of 15.4%, or a weekly profit of £136.15. I mean, that's a weekly profit every single week, just for doing nothing. What does that tell you about owning property then? If every single week it's going up in value by £136.15 on average over since 2016. You know, what does that tell you about owning property as a landlord, as an investor? You know, Richard, what does that tell us?
Yeah, I mean, capital appreciation is an important thing. And as we speak about, obviously, investment property and that as well, I think it's very much a numbers game. Obviously, like if you're investing, you need to make the right decisions. And I think I've done a few vlogs on that about recently, actually, about making the right decisions and choosing the right property for investment. Because you could purchase a property, but it might not always be the right investment, and it could maybe end up costing you if it's not thought out properly. as a very much a numbers game. So.
Yeah, I spoke about that exactly yesterday. I had an online session, a private mentoring with someone in Ely, and they had a property in Ely. They were looking to rent it, and by the time we got to the end of the conversation, I worked out it's actually costing them money to rent. They were ended up negative £1,500 a year in profit or in loss. So negative £1,500 a year in loss just because they were looking to rent it rather than actually. And I said, you'd be better selling it. By the time I'd finished one of them with the same money, I was predicting and forecasting a profit turned round from a loss of £1,500 with the same money, a profit of about £12,000 a year with the exact same money, and 191% capital return on investment over a 10-year period. And it is literally just the use of money, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's important as well. I think people get a wee bit like, when we refer to the numbers game, and obviously when we speak about it, they think, oh God, like they feel a wee bit maybe over their head. But it's not difficult to look at it logically and just kind of methodically path out, obviously, what your requirements are for a buy-to-let property, and then just look at it from a logical side. You don't have to get too technical. It's not too difficult to really just make the right decision. So,
Andrea, what's your thoughts on property investment?
For me, I don't think it's something I would want to get involved in. But if I did, I would obviously get a very good management company to look after the property for me.
I could recommend one.
I do think property is a gamble. You know, you draw lucky on. I would put an analogy that it's like playing the lottery, and you get people saying, "Oh, I never win the lottery," and "Oh, did you actually put a ticket on?" So unless you do it, you're not going to find out whether it's going to work for you or not. And I would say property is probably quite a good, safe gamble if you choose right in the first place.
Interesting to use the word gamble, because I don't see it like that at all. I have a predicted pattern of success that I actually know the result before I've actually started the journey. And so it's never a gamble to me. I'm actually a real risk-adverse person when it comes to it. So I actually predict and forecast everything and make sure the result I'm going to get is actually what I'm going to achieve. Because when you think about the logic of it and you call it a gamble, okay, and I don't for that reason, if your interest rates are fixed for 5 years, okay, if your rent is actually the same for 5 years, and now rent will go up over a period of time, and it does. We've always known that, because when I rented a one-bedroom property, it was £280, and when I first started a month, now it's £375 to touching £400 a month, and that's 20 years later on. So it's guaranteed that it will go up. When I bought property in the year 2000, they've gone up 200% since then on average. So they've tripled in value. So every single property I've more or less got has actually increased in value. Therefore, it's never been a gamble. It's I think what you're trying to touch on is you don't know when you're going to get the tenant. You don't know if the tenant's going to stay in the property long enough. You don't know the factors that are going to happen in between. And if you can manage these and make sure I've always been taught in industry by my former mentors and business leaders, my managing directors, my financial directors from previously. All you need to do is minimize the downside and make sure you've got that covered. And everything else from there is a bonus. And that's my attitude and my approach to property investment. So as you see it as a gamble, I see it as a guaranteed success. It is a formulated process from start to finish. And as I said to this lady yesterday when I was discussing it with her, it's all about just using your money properly in order to get that right return. Really, that's what it's come down to. And it is a numbers game at its core. That's really what property comes down to. A numbers game at its core. And if you get the numbers right, everything else will fall into place, because property has gone up 3 times, 200% in the last 20 years on average. Rents have gone up that time in the last 20 years as well. So, but it's never a short-term thing. I think what you're thinking about is maybe speculation, but a lot of people as well jump into property and they begin to speculate. Oh, I'll buy just now and I'll sell it in a couple of years' time and I'll make a fortune. Well, I'm afraid to say, and I'm going to burst everybody's bubble here, that will not happen now because of home reports. That restricts the market to a degree. It keeps the prices down because the home report value is based on historical information, and it keeps the market quieter than usual.
Yeah, and also...
Richard?
Yeah, also I feel that obviously, I know where you're coming from that, Andrea, and a lot of people maybe are hesitant and think that maybe the property market maybe as a gamble, as an investment, because they've not got the knowledge. And I think that's always important to speak to somebody in a professional capacity about investment, and then obviously about the whole letting process. And obviously gambles are there maybe with, like you say, you don't know if you're going to find the right tenant, you don't know if they're going to be there for a certain amount of time, especially the new PRTs and things in place, tenancy agreements in Scotland. There isn't any fixed terms, so we can't fix tenants in for a period of time. But if you speak to the professionals in that area, and it's their job and our job to make sure that these factors are all looked at and planned out properly, so that the whole process kind of ties in and works, and the entirety of it, really.
Quite risk adverse though, Andrea, aren't you?
Yeah.
Is that Monte Carlo or bust?
The sky's falling in. No, I think the one thing that you've highlighted there is if anybody's thinking of investing in property, getting the right advice from the right people is the most important thing. And I'm not always sure that going to see the bank financial advisor is maybe the right thing. I think speaking to somebody that's in the same business, another property investor is probably the best.
Yeah,
because they know all the tricks. They know what it's been like.
Yeah, absolutely. All a bank advisor can do for you is advise you based on the legal handcuffs they've had put on them by the Financial Conduct Authority or the Financial Services Authority. That's all they can do. They can only based on that. A financial advisor cannot tell you how to make money and how to develop money. Otherwise, unless they're retired or unless they're super rich, because it's only that type of person that can teach you how to do that. And really, I've always thought that in the past. It's amazing how many people will go to a mortgage company and ask about their finances, or they'll go to a pension advisor and ask what they should be investing in. And I'm like, wait a minute, has this person got a track record? Do they know what they're talking about? And that's key. You need to make sure the people you're speaking to has a track record in what they're doing.
Yeah, I gave that advice just the other day in one of my vlogs to speak to landlords. If you're new to the game, speak to landlords, speak to investors, and they'll give you good pointers on what good areas to invest in, what properties are good to invest in, what the market's like, what kind of tenants are out there, agents as well, obviously. But it's good to speak to people that have within the sector and operating within the sector, and it gives you a good perspective on things.
Yeah, great. Okay, so let's look at the profit per week per household over the years. I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to have a wee look at this graph. So there we are. We're jumping on there just now. So we'll jump on this one just now, and we'll just jump on the next one. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So weekly profit made from Fife homeowners since the Brexit vote. So this is calculated between the price they would have paid in the summer of 2016 and the price they would have to sell for today, what the average price is, looking at the weekly profit for all types of property in Fife since the Brexit vote. So that's how much since the Brexit vote, the weekly profit on property in Fife properties have actually gone up over the years till now. So a Fife detached home every single week has gone up in value by £136.15. A semi-detached house, £70.77. A terraced house, this is quite interesting. A terraced house is going up by about £90, and an apartment, well, that was no surprise there, £23. But listen, even when you think about the logic of this, an apartment has still gone up in price.
Yeah.
That's the reality. So it just proves to us not one of these property bandings or types have actually gone down in value in the last 4 years since the Brexit vote.
Yeah, that's quite encouraging figures to look at.
So whilst it's no surprise that the property market boom was inspired by the Chancellor's stamp duty holiday, this is not exclusively the Chancellor's achievement. The 3 Ds have been with us throughout 2020. So COVID or no COVID, it's the 3 Ds is debt, divorce, and death. Ultimately, that's what happens. And together with a huge shift in the way Fife homeowners see their homes is another one, which has cooped us up. So with us cooped up during the lockdown and working from our dining tables, the want and the need for Fife people to have a home with an extra bedroom to work from, together with a garden, when you think about it, has been one of the most challenging this year. Hence the rise in demand. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? That's what's driven the market. Andrea, what again, we talk about this is what is the drivers to the market? What other things drive us? What have you been seeing?
Well, I know for certain that a lot of people have been influenced by the stamp duty holiday, and they've been getting their properties on the market. Fortunately, most of them have been getting offers on them in time, and hopefully they'll get them all over the line before the end of March. I'm pretty sure that this week Rishi Sunak has said that they won't be extending the stamp duty holiday. So
you've been doing some horror stories, haven't you? Tell us.
The queen of doom and gloom. Well, the horror stories that I've heard is that people are actually withdrawing from sales that have been agreed that are not going to complete before the end of March. So, I mean, it will have an impact, I'm pretty sure, on a lot of people. I'm thinking that, we do still have people from south of the border purchasing in Scotland, and that's going to,
why are we not seeing that though then? I in my opinion, I know you said about the stamp duty, but to somebody in England, the stamp duty, remember, is £500,000. So that represents a £15,600 saving, if the stamp duty threshold is missed for them. In Scotland, it's £250,000. So that really represents at maximum a stamp duty miss of £2,100. So do you think that's maybe why in Scotland we've not seen that too much?
It is possible. I mean, I do know that the reason for people withdrawing from house sales is that they've used what was going to be their saving on their stamp duty, which would be about £15,000, and think, I can afford a bit more. So we'll just buy a house that's £15,000 more, and we'll get the nicer house that we want. And then they're realising that didn't help with the cyber attack in Hackney down in London, causing huge problems. They weren't able to get searches and things completed in time to allow these properties to move forward. I mean, it's a much slower system in England anyway, so they are going to be really struggling for the end of March.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Richard, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, looking at obviously these driving factors, obviously things like the stamp duty and the COVID, and obviously how it's impacted people's living and things. But obviously the 3Ds, and especially when you come to this time of year, obviously after Christmas, divorce is a big one, and separation. So I think all these factors. I think recently,
I mean, we do laugh, isn't it? Because really, we see it all the time. It's literally a lot of people out there wait until Christmas is over for the kids. Quite right. And they wait till Christmas is over, New Year's over, and they say, right, that's it. I've had enough of you. Sling your hook.
Give me a rubbish present.
Classic when you were younger. It was like, I remember the stories where people used to say, I'm going to pack them in, but I tell you what, my birthday's coming up, so I want my present first. And Christmas is coming up, and I've got them a present, or they've got me a present, so I'm going to wait till I get my Christmas present first before I fund them.
I bought it in the sale, and they won't give me a refund.
But yeah, I think there's a combination of all these factors that just now kind of all come into a head, and that's what's pushing obviously things forward. I believe, definitely.
Yeah, morning, May. How are you? Hey, thanks for watching the show. If you've got any questions, guys, please feel free to ask them. We're here to help at the end of the day, no matter what it is. It could be something completely different from Brexit, but predictions for 2021 is coming up soon, and where we are. So, well, when you think about it, you've got the 3Ds, right? Okay. So, debt, divorce, and death. That always drives the market when you look at it. Also, what other things drive the market? Having children.
Yep.
Job, new job.
Yeah, people relocate.
More money, bigger house.
Yeah.
Children leaving. What other things have we got?
Yeah, I mean, even people like you see, obviously people earning more money, but also I see sometimes people inheriting money, which allows them to then move forward. That's one that I see quite a lot.
Extended families as well. A lot more people are having older relatives coming to live with them as a means of being there to be able to care for them, but also it helps them move into a bigger house by amalgamating two households. So there's more money in the pot for the bigger house.
Yeah, you see that. I mean, when we talk about divorce and separation, and then it ends up two people join together and they've both got children to previous marriages or whatever in relationships, and then they need a bigger place to obviously accommodate sometimes double the space. So yeah, you see that as well.
Absolutely. But there is a lot of things that drive the market other than that, isn't there? You know, you again, as I said, you've got relocation, you've got retirement as well. You know, a lot of people actually, you know, they've worked in the city all their life, and the first thing to think about is the dream about all their life is like, I just want to retire to a small wee cottage, you know, on the coast, and actually just looking out in the sea every day. I just want to go long walks and everything like that. I want to walk my dog every day. I just don't want to bother anymore, and I've had enough. That's kind of what drives it as well, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely lifestyle, and I think people with that objective, Fife's perfect for that, because we've got, obviously, like we were talking about last week, we kind of come a bit complacent to what we've got on our doorstep, but people for the cities and things, they see it differently, and that's why they move.
What do you do if you are ready to retire and you're outside this area and you sold your house, you know, and you want to move into this area, but there's nothing really to buy? Would you actually would you rush into? I got this other day. Would you actually rush in to buying a property straight away just to get somewhere to stay, or would you actually rent? I mean, what's your opinion on that, Andrea?
I think it's a really good idea to rent for a while in the area. If you're not 100% sure exactly what area you want to live in Fife, I would rent somewhere fairly central and go and have a good recce of the area while you're in your rental. And then you're there and ready to make the purchase. Because if you're still selling a house, your house of your dreams could come and go before you get your own sale completed. Yeah. Whereas if your sale is completed, you've got the money in the bank, you're renting, you're ready to go, and it puts you at a really good advantage.
It does, and you do see that quite a lot. I mean, before you make that commitment, I speak to people who are relocating or downsizing, and before they make the decision on the exact area or what kind of property exactly that they're going to move to, they rent. And it makes it so easy now as well, because you've got the private residential tenancy, you're not committed to any long lengthy tenancy agreement. So when you found what you're looking for, you could move fairly quickly.
Yeah, I would like the idea of a try before you buy. And you find out what really works for you and what doesn't.
Listen, didn't knock it. I tell you what, or don't discount that as a laugh when you think about it. I mean, I used to tell people that one day every single landlord in Scotland will be registered or licensed or something like that, and that was in 1999. And lo and behold, we've got landlord registration. I saw it coming. My other prediction out of that is one day your council tax bandings will be based on EPC rating for your property, which again is quite a controversial thing, but I think that's how they're going to try.
That's not too at the box, to be fair. That's not too at the box to think that.
But yeah, when I thought about that all these years ago when EPC first came in, you know, that's where everybody thought, that's never going to happen. I could actually, you know, I think that could actually happen now, where that would be viable.
Yeah, and your EPC rating's it's a big deal now, and a lot of people obviously look for it when they're buying or renting, I suppose, as well. And then obviously there's a lot of new implications with the energy performance certificate rating, the banding limitations and things for letting and that as well. So it does have a big influence.
Some people don't appreciate that when they see the EPC on the house that they're buying is maybe a C, but what they don't realise that since that was calculated, the original owners have extended the property, and so when it goes through registers of Scotland, the EPC gets recalculated, and they end up going up a council tax banding.
I've noticed that the councils are actually using the opportunity to reband properties once they're actually bought now, and put them in a different council tax banding, which, in my opinion, isn't really fair. Because the reality is, it is what it is, and if that's the case, you should be rebanding everybody. It's, you know, but they're not, and they're just, and it's like I have been through the process with someone who actually fought them and tried to appeal against it, And I showed them comparables in the area, which actually reflected that as well. They then took that to the panel. But immediately what they did, the assessors just changed their tune every single time. So no matter what they said, the assessor immediately changed their tune to something else, and then jumped onto something else, and jumped onto something else. And it was almost like this was all just it was almost just like a pantomime to get the result they wanted. It was genuinely, it was just, whatever you said and whatever evidence you produced, it was conclusive. But then what the council did, or what the assessor did, was then they produced something completely different, and then the panel assessed this, went, oh well, that's absolutely right. And it's like, well, what about the person that's appealing? Are you just going to ignore their evidence then? And apparently that, yes, absolutely, just ignore your evidence completely because they want the response to get the money out of you for the council tax to get you up abandoned. That's deliberately engineered like that.
Yeah, they should probably have a revisit to everybody's council tax, say every 5 years, and not just when a house is sold. It'd be fair on everyone then.
And then what you would find is all the bandings would move up to where it was before anyway, and it would all be reflective. So this is their piecemeal approach of how to, dare I say, divide and conquer. This is what they're doing. They're basically divide and conquer rather than throwing everything at once. Because you know what happened when the poll tax got put in place. There was a huge riot on the street and everything like that. So you could imagine if everybody's council tax band and then got reassessed. Mind you, we'd all be probably civilised about the whole thing. We're just a nation of people that queue and love to queue and civilised people. It's not the done thing. So, what for 2021? So it's true that the country will have high unemployment. I think there's no doubt about that. But you can't be so doom and gloom about this. You've got to remember, as one door closes, another door's opening all the time. It's difficult for restaurants and pubs and all the rest of it, but the reality is a lot of people are not eating out anymore, so they're choosing to buy more stuff at the supermarket, they're choosing to cook at home and all the rest of it. So that industry is expanding as a result. So natural move from labour from one industry to the other and retraining is taking place. There's no doubt about that. So there is a crossover and a benefit there. Because the demand's still there, remember. It's not the fact that demand isn't there anymore. It's just that the demand in certain areas can't be used anymore, which is another political story completely. We could be here forever talking about that. To a degree, if it was a just or injustice for what's happened to the restaurant and pub industry and how they've been treated. So we have, at the same time, we have ultra low interest rates. We've for the last 20 years, and on average, we've only built 150,000 households per year as a nation. But yet we needed 300,000 right over the UK to keep up with demand for people living longer. I mean, the average age is going up 2 years. So when the average age for living is going up 2 years, you've got to think about, okay, we've got to now provide healthcare for that person for the extra 2 years. We've now got to provide, social security for that person. We've now got to provide pensions for that person for the next 2 years. We've now got to, all these different provisions. And if somebody's living 2 years longer, then it's not just one or two people. It's thousands. It's the whole nation. Yeah. It's the whole world, in fact, when you think about the logic of that, because we're all exercising, we're eating healthily, we're doing all these things relevant. We've all got access to proper medical care. Well, we have in the UK, we know that. Elsewhere, it's maybe different, and I feel sorry for them. In America, for example, how a lot of people are just left to choose between, it's going to cost $10,000 to sew this finger back on, and it's going to cost $8,000 to sew this finger back on, but you've only got $12,000. So which finger would you like to choose?
That's terrible.
It's like, what? Really? And that to me is an absolute disgrace. But that's the one great thing about having the NHS here. Thank God for the NHS.
Yeah, definitely.
I think also that might be driving the fact that people are living longer. They also driving the fact of the house purchases in Scotland, because we have the free healthcare, we have free prescriptions, we have free care for the elderly. So people are moving up from south of the border to take advantage of that.
Scotland's absolutely magic, isn't it? It's a brilliant country to live in, because
I don't buy anything.
Yeah, when you, and I will never leave Scotland. I love Scotland. You know, it is. My heart is in Scotland all the time, and my heart is particularly in Fife, and I would probably never leave here ever. I love the place, and I love where I live, and I love everything on my doorstep. You know, we just got the best of everything here, and I definitely truly believe that. And I don't think the rest of the world actually realises what we've got here, but we get tarred with the same brush as the UK in general. So when people talk about the NHS in England, the NHS in England is completely different from the NHS in Scotland because we run our own NHS. You know, we look after our own people, and we have more of a caring policy. Would that be a fair assessment, Andrea? You've been in this industry before.
I have, yeah. I was a nurse for quite a number of years, and I worked with the NHS both in the hospitals and in the primary care side of things as well. And yeah, we do have a really good NHS. They are struggling because they've got financial implications as well, that they're having to meet their targets and certain budgets and everything. But yeah, no, I think we're very, very lucky with what we have here, and we shouldn't complain too much about it.
No, I think I hear some people complain. I think, do you really actually realise what we have? Some people
the only
don't.
thing I really complain about is the fact that the amount the drug companies charge the NHS and exploit them to a certain degree and have them over a barrel in their pricing policies and how they do it. That's big pharma. I really can't stand the way big pharma treat the NHS. It's almost like a cash cow to them.
The big pharmaceutical companies, they definitely cash in.
So just as well, you didn't have me in charge of the NHS, so there'd be slight changes. I'll be renegotiating on the contracts with the pharmaceuticals straight away because there's millions and millions of pounds to be saved. And for me personally, this is me getting on my soapbox tonight. For me, when somebody says I need £50,000 to sustain my life for the next 5 years, and then some local authority or something like that saying, well, we can't afford, and it's cost benefit analysis, and I'm thinking, wait a minute. I could find you 50 grand straight away if I was to dig deep into the NHS and the way the administration's run and how much money is getting spent on big pharma. You know, I could probably find you that like that. Unfortunately, I can't fight everything. I can't fight every war if I had to. But that's, you know, I could find that money. You know, definitely. I mean, we know that that's the case. I've seen that umpteen times as well, especially in housing, where, for example, we've had let's talk about one of my properties. Okay, so I get a bill through the door from the council for £5,000 for a new roof. And I'm waiting, wait a minute, does it really need a new roof? Because I've got the flat downstairs, they've got the flat upstairs. So the council say to me, yes, it does, it's £5,000. I then send out my contractor, and this is true story, I then send out my contractor goes and has a look at it and says, well, you probably want to talk about £550. That's exactly the figure he quoted me. I went back to the council and says, it's only £550, and they went, okay, get it fixed then, and we'll pay half of that. So you were happy then to spend £5,000 if I just says go ahead and do it if I'd been completely naive into repairing that and said, oh well, go and I'll trust you and I believe you, exactly. Do you know that happened twice with the same property in a period of 5 years? Twice, and I've still not had that property re-roofed, and there's nothing wrong with it. And yet all these years ago, they went, oh, it's going to cost you £5,000. And it's amazing when I think about the amount of people out there are just believing what they're told. Yeah. They're just believing what they're told from someone else. You know, this is a wee shout out, okay? If you have got a situation like that, please feel free to get in touch with me and I'll look at that for you and assess it and see if it's right for you and you're actually getting a good deal for what you're doing. I'm more than happy to do that for anybody and look at any quotes or anything they're getting charged for and look at that and assess it and see if it is the right thing to do. I could probably look at someone else and say, okay, you'd be better to go there, you'd be better to go there, you get a better price there or a better price here. There's a lot of people out there just taking advantage.
Yeah, and a lot of people, especially like coming to like an authority like the Fife Council or whatever, I mean, they're just going to think, well, that is what it is, I'm going to need to put a new roof, and it could be obviously costing them thousands, and really, it could only cost them.
I had a similar situation, but one of my flats down on 2 days after getting it on private sector leasing. And it was going to cost, best part of £15,000. And they went, well, that's your responsibility. And I went, what? It's your tenant. And it's you're the you've got responsibility for it under your insurance for the tenant doing it. And eventually, after 3 months of wrangling, it was their responsibility. But they tried to force it on me straight away. And it's amazing how many other people out there that were actually in the same boat, they were actually just believing what they said and said, oh, that's fine. I'll pay it. I'll get my insurance company to actually pay that. It's like, no, my premium go up as a result. It's your fault. You've taken full tenure of the property under our agreement, and you agreed to reinstate whatever the tenant damages.
Yeah.
That's what the tenant damaged. They had a fire. Your job. So it actually took me to go to the head of housing, and actually, because I knew him, and he was the one that stepped in and says, no, that's not right. But they have deep pockets. You've got to wonder as well, it's the law of deep pockets as well. They have deep pockets, and as a result, it's like they just beat you to death with lawyers and solicitors. And it's like you've got no chance unless you've got money or resources and you've got the intellect to fight that. Then you basically just have to roll over and accept it.
Yeah.
You've got no other choice.
I think a lot of larger companies will actually prey on people's ignorance and just say anything. Just hope that they don't question it.
Yeah, some people are easily led, and it's a shame because people do take advantage of it.
It is. They don't know any different. They trust everybody round about them, and I get it completely. I trust everybody until they show me otherwise. That's exactly what I do. You guys know yourself. I've been burnt over the years a few times, financially and emotionally, in terms of what's been going on. And it's just one of these things you have to bear. It's either that or you live in a doubt and mistrust for the rest of your life. And to me, that's like drinking poison and expecting another person to die. That's the reality. All you're doing is doing it to yourself. So you can look at that in either way you want. Anyway, we're talking about Brexit and everything like that. It's like I knew this would go on another train completely different. But that's what I said in the intro, guys. Anyway, you never know where that's going to lead us, where it's going to go, what's going to happen. So many people can predict what will happen, yet none of us really know what will actually happen to the Fife property market in 2021. You can clearly see there. I tell you what, even though the market's down, right? If it does go down, there's an easy way to get this back up and get everybody working. It's called building council houses. That's an easy way to get everybody back to work and train a whole nation of workforce people. We're needing 300,000 houses a year to keep up with demand. In Scotland, we need 25,000 houses a year. We are not even hitting that target, and I don't think we ever have hit that target. So that's compounded over the years on each other as a result of that. So it's an easy way to do it. So COVID was the black swan event and the fallout from that, I believe. And that's actually changed people's lives and their lifestyles, especially how they see their home. So instead of making predictions, nothing can get away from property market fundamentals. This is key here. We can all predict, but it's the indicators that are showing us where the market is going as a result, which have driven the price booms on the back of the high demand for homes and low supply. So really, I've been doing my property updates every single week on a Sunday night, 8 o'clock. That's my plug for my show. Sunday night, 8 o'clock tomorrow night. My weekly property update. I've been doing that every week now on a Sunday night, and I've been demonstrating every single week, more or less, that supply is still outstripping. Supply is not outstripping demand. Demand is outstripping supply every single time. Last week it slowed a bit. That's fine. But 1 week does not make a trend, what I was always told by my managing director. Thank you, Roy, for that. All these wee things stick in my mind from my ESA Macintosh days. So low supply, properties coming to the market, so to speak. And price crashes on the back of oversupply and low demand. Really, that's the indicators. Only time will tell if 2021, if the Fife property market will see a flood of properties come to the market because of the debt or the demand for larger homes continues to rise unabated. So, I'd be interested to know other people's thoughts on this matter. What's your thoughts on this matter overall for next year, Andrea?
I think any number of properties could come to the market next year. There could be a fantastic supply, but if the mortgages out there are not available, then people are not going to be able to get them. So things have to go hand in hand. And I don't know what's going to be happening with the mortgage situation. I do know that the Help Homes First Home Fund
will be coming back in April, more than likely.
Yeah. So that will certainly boost it. But the period in between New Year and then, I'm really not very sure. But there will definitely still be a supply.
Richard.
Yeah, I think obviously everybody's mind next year is there's a lot of uncertainty, but I think when it comes to the property market, I think I'm very optimistic that things are going to be quite positive. There's going to be a lot of activity. Obviously, you see things like the first home fund coming back, and I think things are going to continue at a good level.
Yeah, I'm going to pin my colours to the mast. Okay, this is my predictions. Furlough will be extended. And now I said it 2 or 3 months ago. They said it back in October. We are not extending furlough. It's no happening. It's no happening. It's no happening. I kept saying they're going to extend it. They're going to extend it. They kept telling everybody they're not extending it. And guess what? They've extended it to March. Now, the other day, they've extended it another month to April. And furlough will continue to be extended. I can see that happening purely for the fact that Europe is doing more than what we're doing back here. So there's no way we're going to be able to survive if Europe's propping up their economy. That's what I see with that one. Interest rates will still stay ultra low. Money supply in the banking system is still at an all-time high. There's still a lot of money flowing about in the system. They're still giving away mortgages. All they're doing is making sure that their exposure is protected based on the rules that they've been given by the government. Clearly, there's an indication here when the government says you can continue now to pay out dividends as a bank, which means the government thinks there's everything underlying is okay. That's where I think it'll be in terms of, and because of these situations, we are going. I have seen time and time again where the spike. Let's talk about the bounce. Let's talk about the bounce. I'll quickly show you this chart. This is the bounce. So we're going to use this, and we're going to jump back on our charts. I love a good chart. So here's the bounce that Rightmove predicts. The Boxing Day bounce is a 231% bounce in activity. What do you think everybody else has got to do on Boxing Day and throughout the Christmas period is look at their mobile phones. The new television has arrived. TV is now in the background as noise, and most people predicted will spend 6 hours a day on their mobile phones. This is where you capitalize on that market. And if you're on social media with your property, with videos, with everything else as well, you will capitalize on this bounce, which is the 231%. See New Year's Day or New Year's Eve, that's when everybody's got the hangover and they're just getting over it. That's why there's a dramatic drop. And then once everybody's sobered up, boom, it goes right up again. So that is where I am predicting where the market's going to be in the bounce for Christmas. So that will continue to go up. Guess what's going to happen? The supply coming on is now beginning to restrict. So we all know if supply coming on is restricted, demand is still there, especially with the Boxing Day bounce. Therefore, the market will continue to climb as a result, and house prices will continue to climb. People have still got the money, they've still got everything else. Stamp duty in Scotland is not that much an impact on everything. So I still think you're not going to get a house price crash in March and April. That is my prediction. That is not going to happen because the government then as well can't afford to have a house price crash. Because the implications of that is if people lose their houses, the banks lose their money, the pension funds lose their money because they're linked into the banks. Therefore, there's a credit crunch. Therefore, the banks stop lending money. Therefore, business get affected. Therefore, jobs get affected. The knock-on effect. So the government can't afford to affect the housing market. They will do everything in their power to keep this propped up. They will put in First Homes Fund, which comes back in April from the Scottish government. They will make sure that there's other things to stimulate the market all the time. They will also possibly, and I've been niggling at them all the time, to take away ADS, which is the additional dwelling supplement, which is the second homeowners tax. Now, that's 4%. That's quite a significant amount, but that could actually stimulate the market as well. So there is other tools in their bag in order to keep that market going. So my prediction, and we can come back to this at the end of next year, at the same time next year, we'll come back. My prediction for next year, that everybody else says a 1% increase in property values, I predict 4% for that reason. And it's a bold statement, but I think all the indicators are there to tell us that, because in 4% in Fife, I'm saying, might not happen anywhere else, but 4% in Fife, because I think Fife is a new proposition to a lot of people outside of this area who want to come and work from here and actually live here for the lifestyle. I have noticed people coming back here for that lifestyle. Darren Peaty from the East Neuk Salt Company is a classic example. Used to work further afield in cities. Now he's come back because he wants a lifestyle for his family and he wants to work locally. He's doing great things for the area. So if you get a chance, check out the East Neuk Salt Company. They're actually going to be doing St. Monans tonight. The lighthouse in St. Monans is, or the windmill in St. Monans is going to have a light show on it tonight. All social distance. Yep, all approved. It starts at 6:30, I think it is, or 5:30. If you go to the East Neuk Salt Company's page, you'll see it there. It's going to be a wonderful event, all lit up, the actual windmill. It's going to be a fantastic event. I'm going to be there. Probably not going to be able to live stream it. I'll probably record some of it because you don't get that brilliant signal over there. Although digital improvement zones are coming to East Neuk as well. So that's another thing. Again, check out East Neuk Now, the Facebook page, because sign up to digital improvement areas, because that will allow you free funding to increase broadband speed and coverage and increase it into basically hypersonic broadband, ultra fast for the East Neuk area. Again, re-emphasising the proposition for people to come and live throughout Fife in general. Not everybody play on East Neuk, because East Neuk's got enough. But what I mean is, you know, Cooper, St Andrews, Achtermachte, Leavenmouth, Kirkcaldy, Glenrothes, Dunfermline. Fife is a wonderful place with lots and lots of things in that area to engage with. And good morning, Stacey. How are you? Thanks for joining and watching the show. We're just wrapping up just now, so hopefully you'll get back to watch the show. It'll be streamed later on anyway, so you're fine to watch, and we'll slice and dice this during the week. So that's it, guys. An hour has passed. You've got to get away for your Christmas shopping, Richard.
I am.
So bad.
That was good. A lot of stats today and things, that a lot of positive statistics there, which just prove that some of the predictions and some of the negative predictions aren't always going to be correct. And I think I've got, and I know you have as well, a really positive outlook for next year.
Absolutely, I think so. We're taking on more people. If anybody's looking for a job in a state agency, well, hey, we may as well. A negotiator, an estate agent, and a property manager as well, and we are potentially looking for a general manager as well. So this is all the people we're looking for next year. So what are we predicting if that's the case as a business? Where do we think the market's going? These are strong indicators to suggest that things are just going to continue to rise and move, and the mobility of labour will happen as a result. Yeah. So if you're out there and you're looking for a job in property, or you're looking to, this is what you've always wanted to do, and you've got a track record of success somewhere else, come and join us. You know, put a CV into info@fifeproperties.co.uk. You've got nothing to lose.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be experience in property. Like you say, as long as you've got a good track record and good experience in a sector, then yeah, definitely speak to
Look at Jimmy Mullen, you know, ex-pro golfer, sponsored by Ping. You know, look how he's excelled in the property market now, and here how he's now in a stage and in his own right, and he, you know, people actually take his advice and everything like that as well. So Jimmy's actually done absolutely fantastic, great things. Had no property background before, and yet within a series of 2 years, he is now a seasoned estate agent.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it for this week, guys. So thank you very much to Andrea, you know, for coming on the show, and Richard as well. And my name's Jim Parker, and thanks for watching the Fife Property Show.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.